All right. Okay, everybody, welcome tonight to our Tuesday, July 11th City Council meeting. This is our 6 p.m. workshop. In attendance, we have council members Cargill, Dunn, Spencer, and Sahlberg. This is not a required piece of the meeting. Then there will be no decisions made, but we do have a quorum. No, we don't. Yeah, if something does happen and we're in the same situation at the 7 o'clock. So this workshop tonight is to go over, have a presentation from our risk management company. And Kyle, do you want to introduce everybody? I'm not sure how you have this planned out for tonight.
All right, thank you, Mayor, Council. So tonight we do have our current insurance company, General Property and Liability and Risk Management Services from Clear Risk, who is a third-party day-to-day administration for CIAW, which is Cities Insurance Association of Washington. And they have a presentation on just the services they provide and potentially some things to expect maybe for next year. But I'll turn it over to them.
Right. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good evening. I'm Frank Andrus with Clear Risk Solutions. I'm the Vice President of Clear Risk Solutions. I've been there for about 20 years, and I oversee the risk management, basically the services side of the office. So that would be anything from claims to the risk management services, the account education, marketing, and then we have a pre-litigation program that's headed by an attorney that has consultants that work under that have investigators as well. So along with me tonight, I've got Wes Crago. He's the CIAW program administrator. He's been around the CIAW for a number of years, officially with Clear Risk Solutions since 2020. Prior to that, he's way back in the day, he was a former educator. He was 10 years on city council for the city of Ephrata, and then spent 16 years as the city administrator for the city of Ephrata before we were able to snag him and have him come on as the program administrator for the Cities Insurance Association of Washington. A number of those years, and Wes can clarify on that, he was on the board for the Cities Insurance Association of Washington while he was the city administrator for Ephrata. So he knows the program well and in the offerings that it provides. The next to him is Blair Koch. I think most everybody here at the city knows Blair well. He's the risk manager for the Cities Insurance Association of Washington. So he's always out doing services and trying to see what offerings we can provide to the city. So he's got a strong public entity background, fire department, volunteer, EMS. So he's got that background in service and in safety culture. So glad to have both of them along with me. I'll start off just a little bit about the Cities Insurance Association of Washington. It was formed in 1988. I believe there was 32 founding members. So it's been around for a number of years. I was looking earlier, the city of Liberty Lake joined in 2002. So it's been a long-standing member in something that we really appreciate having that partnership and being able to work with the city and having that longevity. So the CIAW started out with cities. It's expanded to special purpose in fire districts, and currently is just a little bit, but it's right around 200 members strong in the CIAW. So that's just a little background on the CIAW, and I'll have Wes come up and kind of talk a little bit about. I think you were going to expand on.
Yeah, kind of a little bit about what we kind of an overview of what we do. We aren't really, we didn't bring a PowerPoint or any kind of like presentation. That we really just want to keep this conversational, and we're here for you to answer your questions. We figured we'd go through some of the things we anticipated you might be interested in, but at any time cut us off and ask the question. We it's an interesting time in the insurance industry right now, nationally and even globally. In about 2 weeks, you'll get our forecast of kind of where we see rates where they're gonna land next year. And I guess good news and bad news, depends how you want to look at that, is everybody's in the same boat. Every pool in Washington State's in the same boat. Every private insurance is in the same boat across the nation. I meet with people that do what I do in part of the Brown and Brown family and outside of the Brown and Brown family, and they're all struggling with the same thing. Property rates are going through the roof. People are seeing renewals like overall between 30 to 50%. It's caused a lot of what everybody likes to call disruption in the marketplace. This year, the last 2 years, we've been over double digit on increases, and apples to apples, that adds up. But then what also happens, a lot of our members like you are improving their community. They're adding officers, they're doing things to make their community safer. But that's more things that have to be insured. And so your rate can go up much higher than what the pool rates go up, or if you were to reduce things, of course, they might go down. But it's happening everywhere, and it's really, it's not a magic thing. Inflation drives a lot of the property rate. If something burns down, you have to rebuild it. Cost of materials, cost of labor is impacted by inflation. And while inflation is slowing, it's still going up. And everything else are all the things that you've heard every time you hear about a storm. That is somebody's in the insurance market, and everything's conglomerated. So we work with global partners to have us the biggest pot, so that we never run out of money, and we're always going to be there for you to pay your claim. But they are affected by what happens in Florida, and Washington State is not the easiest of states to do business in. And that affects how people look at us, that we have juries that award a lot of money. We have a state legislature that does things that the business community, the insurance community makes them a little nervous. And that insurance companies get nervous, the rates go a little higher. And all those things are impacting our one little pool out here in Washington, but everybody's affected by that. And what we've seen is we're making these kind of presentations to new members or prospective members a lot, because everybody's rates have gone up. Everybody says, hey, let's take a look at our insurance and let's talk about it. What's we like in our culture, if you will, in the pool is long-term partnerships. As we think that over the longer run, when we have good partnerships, we can weather an up and down. We're going to try to flatten that out. We buy insurance for the pool. We also foster long-term relationships with that reinsurance market, so that if things are going to go up high, we'll try to stair step that up over a couple of years. Not every pool's like that. Not every member's like that. Not every city is like that. Some people like to bounce around looking for the best deal every year. And what happens to pools, what happens to members, what happens to reinsurance markets is they can get a good deal 1 year and then pay for it for 4 or 5 years after that. And that's not good or bad. It's just a different way of doing business. Our culture is long-term. We'll try to be the most stable, conservative, take our time, be careful, be ahead of the game. And that's what we kind of see going on in the insurance market. And the short version of why has your rate gone up the last couple of years, what it's gone up, it's that reason. Our board has used reserves to try to mitigate that impact a little bit. Clear Risk is a for-profit company. We have to earn our contract with CIW each year. We've taken less than our contract guarantees us, because we're trying to mitigate that as well. Because again, we look at this as a long-term partnership with you, with our reinsurance carriers, and with each member in the pool. And that's just kind of what we try to do. And that's why your rates are what they are right now. And if you want a much nerdier, much more detailed explanation of that, we can do that. But that's really what's happened. It's the global market. And I think what we try to do to eliminate some things to try to perform better is risk management. And Blair is here to talk about that.
Yeah, so I am the risk manager for the CIAW, and I'll scratch down a little because I'm a little taller than everybody else. So I'm the risk manager for the CIAW, and I have worked a lot with the city of Liberty Lake. I work with Kyle, I work with Jen and Kelsey and Lisa and a lot of your guys as employees here, and it's incredible what the city of Liberty Lake has done and the relationships we build. And that's one thing with Clear Risk that we try to do is build and foster relationships with the cities. And having those relationships is not an overnight thing. To build relationships, it does take a while. So what we're trying to do is build a culture of safety. And by doing that, like Wes was talking about, is when I'm doing my job, is we can't say, hey, we just stopped a claim from happening by going on and doing playground reviews, or stopping a claim from someone tripping or falling by taking care of carpet. Looking at carpet, I go,
Well, those are holes that got.
I know, I saw that, but if you take care of that kind of stuff, when you take care of things like that, when you're doing facility reviews, we don't know what happens when we take care of things. But when we go through and take care of things get happen. And our philosophy with risk management, things happen and we are able to move forward. So when we're working with risk management, working with you guys, we're hoping and working with our reinsurers, we're trying to stay ahead of the game. We're not trying to be reactive. We're trying to be proactive. And so when we go to our reinsurers with our reports and stuff like that, we're trying to show that you guys are a great partner, that you guys are working with us and making relationships. And so by doing that, it helps to show our markets that, hey, Liberty Lake is a great partner and this is why we need a better rate. And so it helps. And with risk management, we're doing facility reviews, playground reviews. I'm also an ADA specialist, so anything with American with Disabilities Act, so I'm able to review your buildings to say how ADA compliant are your buildings. So we can go review those, and so we can look at that. Also with us, we also do regional trainings. We have actually done a regional training in your guys' location. I don't know if you guys remember that one. We did emotional intelligence. We try to do the trainings to see what's out there. And working with us, we have 200 members, and we also do 2 other pools, large school, small school. We do a county pool, and we do a nonprofit pool here in Washington State. So how many members do we have, Frank? About 1,200 members across our company. So with working with Clear Risk Solutions, we have over 1,200 members. So we're able to see how many members we have out there. We're able to get on top of the pulse and say, okay, what's going on? What's out there? And say what's important. So as everybody knows, sexual harassment, that's pretty big. Everybody gets tired of hearing about that. So what other trainings are important? What else can we look at? What else can we put? What's important to you guys? And then go do those trainings and go out to you guys with these trainings and get high-end trainings, because looking at a Zoom meeting and sitting through Zoom meetings after Zoom meetings gets really old. I don't know about you guys, but I'm done with that. To sit into a meeting and get a high-end training where you guys are learning how to make your workplace and your personnel look better, more effective, is a great thing. So I'll pass it on now to you, Wes.
So if you've probably heard us say partnership a few times, that's key to what we do. We have kind of 3 levels. We have our internal partnerships. We do it all in-house. All of our services, we hire or train or contract with people that have been there and done that. One of our newest employees is a citizen of Liberty Lake, actually. Your former police chief, Brian Asmus, is now working for Clear Risk. We go looking for that kind of talent to bring in. Blair is an example of that. He came from the fire service. I came from small town city government and city administration. We also have people that were raised up in the insurance world, like Frank and a lot of other people that's what they do. It's a great partnership between each other. We also have partners where the pool is now part of WASPIC, the State Association of Police Chiefs and Sheriffs, also the accreditation agency for law enforcement. Law enforcement is a significant focus of concern in the insurance world, not so much in our pool, but we have to convince a lot of our other partners at the insurance level that we have great police chiefs. We have great police departments. We are a good risk. We've also partnered with Lexipol, which is a private company, but they provide the cutting edge, up-to-date, like literally weekly up-to-date policy manuals for police, fire, and corrections. Those are partnerships that are starting to have a great effect. And right now we're at the level of, we'll give you incentives, we'll give you grants to be accredited, to be a part of Lexipol. As time goes on, you'll start to see, I believe in the future, departments that are struggling or departments that are not accredited will have a tougher time getting insurance in other pools and other markets. And then the biggest partnership is our founding company, our parent company is part of Brown and Brown. It's a nationwide, well, international now, insurance pool that we can draw on resources, literally with a few clicks on a chat group. Hey, I've got a city that, pick a topic, needs to get a cat out of the city council meeting. And is that a good thing or a bad thing? How do we do that? I can access several thousand teammates that have been there, done that, and give me that advice right away. And when we go to negotiate rates in the marketplace with the insurance companies, they know we're Brown and Brown, and they know we wield our partners. It's kind of gives us a little bit of clout that other people don't have. And so partnership, I'll come back to that many times, is a big part of what we do. Frank, I think you're up next.
Sure. Yeah, so we've talked a lot about risk management, that being the philosophy of eliminating claims. Obviously, the best claim is one that actually doesn't go to fruition. So that's our main goal. That's what drives the market if we do have a lot of claims. So Blair talked a little bit about the on-site risk management services. The account education, we do have regional trainings. We also have in-person trainings. It could be for, a group at the city here. If you guys want to have like a city council training, or for an individual department, we'll come on site for that. Even if we just do, hey, we got a troubled employee that we need to have just a one-on-one with, we'd rather get out in front of that sooner than later. So the account education's crucial in that. If we need to have a pre-litigation program, is the next, next tier of, okay, if something's starting to brew and it looks like it's going to become a claim, let's get our pre-litigation department involved. And that's headed up again by a in-house counsel. Jen Homer oversees that. She's not actually in-house, she contracts with us, but we have a team of consultants that are actually staff members of Clear Risk. And then, as Wes is alluding to, we've got investigators as well. So we'll come out on site and try and gather all that documentation, see if we can turn that matter into something positive. We could get something resolved before it becomes a claim. But even with all those levels of risk management, there's going to be situations where it just becomes a claim. And we've got a whole team of adjusters here based in Ephrata. We got a few here in Spokane, a few over in Seattle, but it's all local adjusters that's all they do is adjust on behalf of Clear Risk programs. So they specialize in public entity claims handling. So we'll try and get into those early as possible, see if we can get the claim resolved at that matter. If it can't get it resolved, if there's a dispute on liability, and again, it'll all be within communication with the city and you guys helping us drive that. There'll be times where it gets into litigation, and we've got in-house or not in-house, we have panel attorneys throughout the state of Washington that specialize in, depends on if it's an employment or if it's sex abuse, trip and fall type deal. We've got a panel of attorneys that we use to defend the city, and really proud of the claims department as far as, anytime something happens, it's with the traditional market. If you're outside of the pool, is sometimes you'll have a situation where it's like, well, gosh, every time I call on a claim, it seems like they try and deny the claim or there's no coverage for it. We're the complete opposite of that. Is okay, let's look at it. Is there a, maybe not, is there a section of this that we can latch onto and say, okay, hey, this is something that we're going to be able to help the city with and defend and try and get this thing resolved. So it's the adjusters, like I said, are all staff members of Clear Risk Solutions. It's not going to be a situation where you handle a claim with somebody for 3 months and then all of a sudden it gets to a certain layer and all of a sudden you're working with somebody on the East Coast. We handle them from first dollar to policy limits. So yeah, that's the layers of protection that we provide. And that's, again, it's all built into the premium. It's not a additional cost every time you call to talk to an attorney or a pre-litigation department.
So we value stability. That's kind of a core value of our board, and our board is made up of its mayors, chiefs, councilmen, a couple city managers. That's who makes up our board. We are owned by the members and we are led by a board of directors that we report to. They value stability. They want the rates to be as stable as possible. They'll try to, spread a rate change out over a couple of years. That's what's been going on. But they also value stable members. And I think about Liberty Lake, and my first jobs in government were on the council, and I loved it. Did it for 10 years, and I admire what you do, and I know the struggles you're dealing with. And then I got into Mark's line of business, which I thought was even more fun. And I never really wanted to leave Ephrata for anything, but I always thought the one city that always intrigued me was this one, because you are stable, it's beautiful, but you can take on controversial topics, and yet it's kind of discussed in a real rational, calm way. You don't have people getting maced or other than the cat, I guess really that's the only thing I've ever heard of that's gone on that was kind of, a little out of the ordinary. That wasn't just a group of people coming together to talk with one another. And you fit our program very well that way, that you look at kind of, let's be professional, but let's have all the hard conversations. And that's kind of the culture of our pool. And you're highly valued. You do a great job with your risk management. You do a great job of having a community where people, I think, enjoy living here. It shows in how they respond to things. It shows in what goes on in the newspaper, or rather doesn't go on in the newspaper, depending on how you want to look at that. You're an important part of our pool. And I don't want to blow past a chance to express that to you, that Liberty Lake is important to our pool. And you're, what do you want to call it, bellwether, or just a very valued part of what we do. You're one of our partners. And I think, Blair, you're going to talk a little bit more about some of those, the board and some of the things that we do culturally that I think what you believe fits what our pool has always been doing.
So as we talked about, so Clear Risk Solutions, we're the third party administrator. We work for the board. So the board is made up of members. So the members are who tells this Clear Risk Solutions what to do. It is made up of members. And so we have members all over the state that come together and tell Clear Risk Solutions what to do. So like Wes says, we have city administrators, we have 2 fire chiefs on our board. We have a couple water districts that are on the board. And so what we're trying to do is give every one of our members basically a voice. And so someone that you can reach out to and say, hey, this is what's going on. This is our concern, and go to them and say, hey, this is what we see. This is what we're dealing with, and talk to them. And so Brian Asmus your police chief used to be on our board. He was a great person to be on the board, and he was phenomenal to work with, and miss him, but now he works for us. So it's great to have him working with us. Happy about that. But it's great to work with the board because they do tell us what to do, what their direction is, where they want us to go with things. And so, and then with Clear Risk, we're not insurance people. Well, I kind of am. I grew up in insurance. My grandpa was an insurance agent, my dad is, but I said I was never going to do insurance. I was going to be a firefighter, paramedic, and I was till I blew money out and I was forced to retire. So I never say never. But you look around, our board is not insurance agents. The people on our board, they're people like you. They're business members, or they're city councilmen, they're city administrators, they're a mayor, they're a fire chief. And so they don't deal with insurance, but they do know how to run a city or a fire district. But they talk to us, and so they come to us and talk about what's going on, and we have the relationship with us. And so the relationship is so important. We talk about this a lot. The relationships is what's important to us. And then in working with cities and fire districts and special districts is what kind of sets us apart from everybody else. It's important to us. And so if you have questions, please reach out to us, or reach out to the people on the board. We'll give you guys a folder at the end of this, so you can reach out to them, see who is on the board, and talk to them. Wes?
Yeah, just maybe on another note on that, reaching out. I mean, if there's a dispute in our pool, the bylaws, it generally goes to the board. And so I guess I always think of us as a company, as a board that works to say yes, and sometimes has to say no, rather than the other way around. And it just creates a very different culture of looking at insurance, very different than what you might find with whatever your homeowner or auto policies. And that's a big part of what we do. I mentioned the forecast for what's coming and what we look at ahead. We start working on our negotiations with the excess carriers in March for a December renewal. So again, those long-term partnerships, those people that we've worked with for decades, that we know each other well, they know us well, they can spread things out, they can take their time with us. All of that takes a long time. Relationships. Looking at the market, looking at the rate of inflation, looking at what's going on with global forecasts for hurricanes, looking at what's hit the property and the casualty markets, nuclear verdicts, all the stuff you read about. We go and talk to our partners and we ask them, what do you guys see? And they're looking at, they have teams of people that work on this. Combining that all together, this is, again, you'll get this in about 2 weeks, but the bottom line is things look like they're going to be about another 18 months, maybe as short as 9 months. But what's gone on the last 2 years is going to continue for another year to year and a half. That's the bad news. That's not great. None of us are happy about that. We don't like that at all. That kills us because at the end of the day, it's all coming out of the taxpayer's pocket. It doesn't matter how you want to dice it. If things have to be, they just become more expensive for taxpayers. You're either going to have to provide less service, do something, give up something, or you're going to have to find a way to charge more. And we all get that. We live that every day ourselves. The good news is that our board has kind of looked ahead and tried to be a little proactive. Because we have these long-term partnerships, we maybe have a little better insight for what's coming. And over the last 2 years, we've made part of our rate increases have been preparing for this. And if you want to think of it, the heavy lifting has already been done. Not unlike if you have a water project and you know you're going to have to get a bond or something for that water line in 5 years, you start raising your rates bit by bit to get to that. So when it comes, it's not a giant shock to your citizens. That's what we've been doing. I can't speak to what other pools have done, but when I've seen other insurance companies, other pools, the rates have made massive jumps. I don't think they have looked ahead like that the way that our pool has. Again, at the end of the day, you're going to pay what you're going to pay. But I think if we're a little more stable about it, if we're a little more proactive about it, and we have these partnerships, we can mitigate that. We can get a little better deal and we can smooth that out. I wish I had better news to tell you what things are looking like in the future, but that's the truth. That's what we know. And you'll get that in writing in about 2 more weeks. And I think, Frank, you want to wrap us all up here?
Sure. Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for giving us this opportunity to come over and meet with each of you tonight. Long-standing relationship. I appreciate what you guys are going through as far as looking out in the market to see what's out there, and we're going to do everything possible to retain the business. So I just appreciate you giving us the opportunity to come over and speak with all of you. So just, is there any questions or anything that maybe we didn't address that?
I'll open it up. You don't need to wait for me. Just go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. I have 3 questions, actually. I'll start with the easiest. How many board members do you have? 10. And of your 200-member pool, are they mostly cities, counties? What do they consist of?
It's about a third cities, about a third fire districts, and then the remaining third is water districts, a couple sewer districts. I think we have 1 cemetery district in there. So the weight is with obviously cities and fire districts. By number or by
number special. We'll actually give you the list of everything.
it's in the folder we'll give
you, but yeah, I think special districts is higher, fire districts.
employee count though.
Oh, employee count,
Yeah.
but numbers wise, for number of members.
Yes.
When's the last time you had to remove somebody from the pool?
We got real close. I won't use the name, but if I mention it, you'd probably recognize it. It was about, I want to say 10 years ago now. What do I say? Yeah. We had a mayor was elected as a write-in candidate and kind of did things not the way things are supposed to be done. And they got notice that they'll be invited off the island if that happens. It's also, it's like we kind of mentioned the disruption in the market, a lot of people looking at us. It's allowed us to be a little more selective with who joins the pool. Looking at how they manage things, how their council meetings run, not just their risks, but again, we really want to get the culture of do they fit our pool, that long-term, good risk management, conservative with things. That's who fits our culture.
So I guess I have a fourth one then if I can. I wasn't expecting that third question there actually, but so based on who's in your pool, what percentage of these premium increases would you attribute to government regulations versus natural disasters versus policy claims?
I'd say the majority, and Frank, you probably speak and give a little more clarification, but the majority of our rates of why your rates have gone up have been the excess and reinsurance markets. It has not been performance and claims of our members.
Or natural disasters?
Well, I guess those, we have not had a lot of natural disasters.
I wouldn't think you would.
The ones we have in Washington State are the fires. Malden
Mm.
got everybody's attention, and it's very difficult to write a member if they're in a high fire area. Same would be true of flood and earthquake. It's pretty tough to get in the pool and get a good rate if you're in those areas. But majority of our stuff we're dealing with is things that are kind of outside the pool's control. Cybersecurity. Yeah.
So can I?
Go ahead. Yeah, sorry, I was just
Sorry.
saying, yes.
Since you brought up the fire portion of the coverage, and I haven't dove in completely to what's coming next for our state regarding the fire regions,
Mhm.
when you go pull a building permit of any kind, most people are thinking if you're in a heavily wooded area, that applies to you. But if you have a tree in your backyard, it applies to you, is
Good.
my impression. So are you able to do any, provide any pushback against that? Can you speak to that a little bit?
A lot of it's with the data. That's the best way we've been able to do. If you want to think of a pushback, the reinsurance market that might be located on the East Coast that we're working with, they'll look at those regions, and city X is within a high region. They want to charge a higher rate. We have to look at it. We get into the data and actually start looking at granular, like our building inspections to make sure, well, look, this building is 200 feet from the nearest thing that's over 50 feet, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So a lot of the work we do is that way. That being said, if somebody does have a building that's at high risk, we want to make sure that we're charging the appropriate amount of money to replace that building if it goes down. And that also is driving up costs a little bit, is making sure we have the accurate value of what it costs to replace the structure.
Do you have lobbyists to address those concerns on your behalf?
We do.
Okay,
We have
thank you.
two that we work with, yeah, and we could do a whole song and dance on tort reform and all the things.
It's all good. It's all good. Thank you.
Yeah,
The thing I would add to what Wes is saying is it's not all just outside of Washington State that's driving the rate here in Washington State. It's if you think about the West Coast, California, Oregon, Washington, nuclear verdicts, I would say, talking about lobbyists, Washington Law Against Discrimination's had some changes on sex abuse and attorney fee exposure that's driven it here specifically in Washington State. They're trying to push through prejudgment interest. And so, yeah, we're 100% actively involved with, and frankly, we get involved with other programs throughout Washington State, whether it be schools, cities, counties. We're all lobbying for the same, trying to keep some of those at bay.
Thank you.
well, all the alerts you get from AWC, those are almost perfectly aligned with the insurance world's same concerns. What's good for cities, good for our pool. What's good for school districts, good for our school pools. So you occasionally will ring your bell to see if you can help us out with writing letters to state senators, state legislators.
Go ahead.
Well, thank you for your presentation. Blair, you and I both swore, and we probably still do a lot, that we weren't going to have anything to do with insurance, and I successfully stayed out of it and broke the chain of insurance on my family and went into law enforcement and public safety. So I appreciate your emphasis, or the company's emphasis, on prevention and risk mitigation. one of our officers is sitting behind you back there, and that's a priority for our department
Yes.
too. And that goes down to education and prevention first. So I'm gonna encourage you to continue, and I'm glad that you have the background that you do to be able to do that, and that it's an emphasis, because when we did community policing in Spokane, some of you that are from Ephrata area know, we led the country in reduction of crime and in reduction of the causes of crime. But it was done through education and prevention, it was not done by legislation, was not done by increased enforcement. It was more selective enforcement, and so with regard to your job for us, when we come to you about the golf nets, we're gonna try to prevent something from happening. And I hear your emphasis, so thank you.
Yeah, I've worked with, you guys with that, I think we've okayed it, I've worked with you guys a lot. Actually, one of our guys that works with the risk management is retired law enforcement. So we get that, I don't hold it against him for you for being law enforcement for brotherhood.
If Frank was here, Soto, have you met our Spokane Valley Fire Department chief yet?
No. I've
You
not.
should.
Yes. No, I look forward to it, but no, it's so important because we do a lot of different trainings. We actually have a jailhouse liability training coming up, but we're also doing another training up in, where's that one? Okay, OMAC. It's gonna be a use of force training. It's gonna be a free training up there. I know it's gonna be a little bit of a drive through the law enforcement for you guys, but it's a free training. So. Yeah, I know this is a different one. Yeah, I'll shoot it to you guys. Yeah, every time we get some bush measure.
Any other questions? Councilmember Spencer.
Yes, thanks again for the presentation. I like the idea. In fact, I was just talking about this with a coworker earlier regarding the difference between a credit union and a bank. And it sounds to me like there's a very there's a similarity there in that it's member owned, it's member driven rather than, we've got shareholders to please. So I like that. And I'm going to confess, I didn't realize that the presentation tonight was with our current carrier in kind of a, hey, let's make sure we take a double look. So one question I did have was, how many claims have we made as a city up to this point?
I'd have to look specifically at it. I don't think I have that number. I know that I looked at it here this last week and there's not very many active claims, but in overall number, I'd have to get that.
I can tell you your loss ratio, the dollars you pay in premium versus the dollars the claims cost, it's right about 22%, which is excellent. 21% is better, but we have members that are, you can get pretty high, like 40% is considered like kind of acceptable baseline good member. So when we tell you you're a great member, it's not just you like your culture on that, you actually don't produce a lot of claims. And the claims you do produce tend to be, golf ball versus siding, golf ball versus car, which those aren't too bad to pay. Yeah. So it's important whatever the number would be, the value is probably a little bigger deal to us. You have a lot of small claims, big deal. Yeah, big giant claims because you did something wrong you shouldn't have done. Yeah, that's a problem.
Just so you guys know, about 5-6 years ago, you guys were about 60 to 80%.
Yeah.
So that's how much you guys have decreased over the last time.
There's been a lot more proactive
I would hope.
work
Better
going
training.
on.
Yeah, no, I like that. One other question I had was, I know Kyle had gotten some quotes from some other carriers and in the explanation of, hey, here's how we're doing it. We don't know how the other carriers are, kind of mitigating that risk and those premium increases. I'm curious, are all of the carriers coming out with their estimates for the coming year at the same time?
No, everybody does things a little bit differently, and that it's tough when you're trying to compare because everybody's got a little bit of coverage. Everybody has a little different limits, deductibles, and it takes a lot of work to really compare those to get apples to apples. Last year, we get a lot of feedback from people wanting to know more of a heads up about what we see coming out. So we're doing a June report, and then in the fall, we'll actually have our board members do a video report, which will be a little bit closer to what reality is going to be, because by September, we're going to be, farther along. The spread will be a little tighter on what we think renewal is going to be, and then about a month before invoices go out, you'll get a very tight. We expect it to be within 1 or 2% of X. Everybody does it different. Everybody does all the insurance part differently, but then also it's important to take a look at notice requirements. If you want to leave an insurance pool, we all buy the insurance ahead of time. So the minimum is 1 year, which is what we are, but we've also had, we've had some experience with people that have left, chased a good rate, and they were locked in for 4 years. And that's not what they wanted to do. So again, it's not right or wrong. It's not good or bad. It's just different ways to do business. And our pool, our board that's not the way they would like to do it. They keep it a short notice and try to keep those rates as stable as possible.
Anybody else? Councilmember Cargill?
Okay.
Done?
No.
All right, well, thanks, gentlemen. We really appreciate your time and your efforts to join us. And I think it's really important that our public and our council understands the work that you guys do for us.
Well, anything you need us to do or want us to come back or need information from us, reach out to any of us. We'll hand you a folder. You've got our business cards, and we're here for you. And we can't thank you enough for letting us come say hi and just talk about our favorite topic, insurance.
Yeah. Well, we really appreciate it. So we're going to go ahead and take a break until 7 p.m. For those online, we will be back.
Yeah.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us for our Tuesday, July 11th, 2023 not so regular council meeting. This is postponed from July 4th. Thanks for joining us tonight. We are going to go ahead and start with the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. So please join us. Dear Father, thanks for being here with us today. And thank you for the service of all of our staff and our council members. And thank you for our engaged citizens who are here both in person and via Zoom. We appreciate their input and their interest in what's going on in their city. Sorry, rough day. Please remain watchful over our first responders, our fire department, our police department, all of our military, and those the others that are in harm's way. Please guide us as we have our discussions tonight so that we might make the right decision for our community. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We'll go ahead and start with a roll call. Councilmember Cargill.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Foliar.
Here.
Councilmember Spencer.
Present.
Councilmember Dunn.
Happy to be here.
Councilmember Sahlberg.
Here.
All right, and we have Councilmember Kurtz is out of the country. Do we have a motion to excuse her?
Move to excuse Councilmember Kurtz.
We have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we also have Councilmember Van Orman, who asked to be excused. She did not provide a reason. So typically what we do in that case is we go ahead with excusal. And then if we need to revisit that at the next meeting, we will. So if we can have a motion to excuse Councilmember Van Orman.
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of excusing Councilmember Van Orman, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, ayes have it. So we have both members excused. We'll move on to agenda approval. Mayor Pro Tem.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as published.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Councilmember Cargill.
Thank you, Mayor. Question about 15A. I'm wondering if those can be separated. Obviously, we're not going to make a decision tonight. It's just a first read. But for the sake of when this comes back up, can we separate those out?
separate which pieces?
The one, two, it's a budget amendment
Yeah.
for three different items. So the salaries and updated positions, the cost of repairs to Mission Avenue, and then the updated fee schedule for Trailhead.
Sure, we've done that before. So when we get to second read,
Okay.
we can
That's what
do those individually and then you will vote on those that were accepted.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
All right, any other questions before we vote to approve the agenda? I don't see any. All in favor of approving the agenda as printed, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, ayes have it. We have an agenda. All right, so this brings us to citizen comments. So for those in attendance here in council chambers, if you could please fill out the yellow half sheet by the door over by Lieutenant Morgan and note the item you request to speak on or any other item that is not on the agenda. And those on Zoom, if you can send a note to Todd Henderson, our meeting host, in chat, he will let me know that you want to speak. Just a reminder that this is citizen comment only. This is not a back and forth with the citizens. If there is something we need to respond to you on or get more information for, we'll make sure we have your contact information so staff can follow up. So first we have Hudson Cargill. Welcome. Oh, and everybody's got 3 minutes. You'll see the clock on the screen. Thanks for coming.
Here we go. Hello, Mayor and City Council members. I am Hudson Cargill and I live in the Rocky Hill neighborhood. I'm testifying because I want more baseball fields in our city. I'm a player in the Liberty Lake and Spokane Valley League, and it is hard for us to get fields to practice on. I was thinking we might need a baseball field in Rocky Hill because kids and many others would like to play there, not just people in our league. There is also room at Pavilion Park without hurting any space for soccer or lacrosse. As a player, it would be nice to be able to stay in Liberty Lake when we play our games and practice. Please help us find other locations in our city. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you coming. All right, Todd, do we have anybody else, anybody online who'd like to make a comment? Don't have any? Is there anybody in the audience that hasn't signed up? All right, we will have another citizen comment period at the end. So we will go ahead and move on to our next topic. We are at announcements, proclamations, and special presentations. I think we're calling on Chief Simmons for this one.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, members of the council. Again, thank you, Madam Mayor, citizens of Liberty Lake. I would like to take the time this evening to introduce to you our newest member of the police department, Officer Kyle Fritz. Officer Fritz is transferring to the Liberty Lake Police Department from the Post Falls Police Department, where he has worked as a senior patrol officer for the last 2 years. Prior to working for Post Falls, he was employed by the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. During his law enforcement career, he has worked in patrol, and he was one of those brave souls who would jump on a motorcycle and go chase after criminals on one of those. As a motor officer, he was an unmanned aerial vehicle or drone operator, a field training officer, and he also worked on the social media team, as well as other specialty assignments. His passion lies in the relationships he can build in the community, and his affinity to serve, empower, and lead those around him are what drives him. We would like to welcome him to the Liberty Lake community and also to the Liberty Lake Police Department family. And I hope Kyle's on tonight. Okay, there we go. Thank you. Kyle, you want to say a few words?
You're on mute.
There we go. Is this better?
It is.
Wonderful. So forgive me, I'm working this from the patrol car. We're still out at the range for some training, but happy to join everyone here. Like Chief Simmons was saying, I came from Los Angeles County to Post Falls, really developed an affinity for working for contract cities or even for the city, and just seeing the involvement that the police department has in Liberty Lake really kind of drew me to applying for the agency. My backgrounds with working with city involvement was Malibu was a contract city of ours with Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, and I got to get some direct involvement with statistical reporting for the city officials, as well as direct contacts with business owners, not only developing relationships, but also kind of figuring out their needs out there. And I'm really looking forward to, taking my experiences and everything, learning new experiences and applying them here in Liberty Lake. So thank you very much.
Well, we welcome you and I do want to say from what I understand, Kyle is very proactive. I heard the rumor that you pulled up next to Chief Simmons's patrol car to introduce yourself at one point.
That's right. Yeah. I think everybody knows his car. It's a great looking Charger. So once I spotted him and, I'd already known his name just through my connections, I had to make sure I said hello. And I'll be honest, it was kind of planting the seed.
Great. That's great. Well, we welcome you and you'll love the Liberty Lake PD family.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now finish your training so we can get you out there.
Yes, ma'am. You got it. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. All right, let me get back to our agenda here. All right, reports and inquiries. First, we've got city council. So is there anybody who wants to start from city council reports? Go ahead, Councilmember Dunn.
22nd of July, I attended the Regional Homeless Authorities presentation, Tom Solberg and I. It was an excellent opportunity to understand, I think a regional, and I'm going to say distributed approach to an important set of services that our jurisdiction, for example, right now does not have a significant footprint in. Interlocal agreements were circulated then with an introduction and to what the definition of that entity is. I think it's a really important action that the city of Liberty Lake needs to be engaged in. I recognize it's on our workshop agenda for the 18th.
Yes.
And very much looking forward to getting the more direct information from the participants. So, and Saturday, the coming week, the 15th, will be the first ride on the Central City line for Spokane Transit. Just want to encourage everybody to recognize rapid transit, we'll call it, or the ability to say every 7.5 minutes, there'll be a bus at that station. This is the first time for our community. So great thing. Go down there between Brown's Addition and Spokane Community College.
Right. Thank you. Any other council reports? Councilmember Solberg.
Thank you to staff, Lisa, David, and crew for getting the information out on the closure for Mission. Things have gone smoothly from what I can tell, but please don't forget to keep checking. Maybe law enforcement needs to be doing that as well, because people are flying through there and then running into where the construction is.
Well, I appreciate the reminder. I was coming back from my parents' place earlier this afternoon and pulled up, thought, oh, crap. The road's closed, but now this year with Indiana having the light and everything, the detour is much smoother.
It's really busy in the morning. And
Yes.
then tomorrow at 5 o'clock is the soiree at Liberty Lake Winery, which is the fundraiser for the Friends of the Library. And I know that there's one ticket left over because it's mine.
Very close to sold out.
It was,
Yeah.
yeah, it is.
Well, because I have one that's not being used. So hopefully somebody will use that.
All right. Anybody else? Go ahead, Councilmember Spencer.
Several of us attended the AWC annual conference of 90 years, I believe,
Yeah.
is what they were celebrating. Anyway, lots of great training. One in particular training I attended was titled Reclaiming Curiosity Toward More Constructive and Less Judgmental Disagreements. And one of the quotes that I wrote down here was, "Certainty is the death of curiosity." So I know when I applied for this position on the council, that was one thing that I mentioned was the importance of being curious as a council member, asking questions and digging down to the, what the issue is. And so I just want to encourage the council to continue to be curious and rather than coming to a council meeting so certain on any particular issue, because as we discuss together, we might uncover something that we weren't aware of. So.
Great.
Thanks.
All right. Last chance. Anybody else? Okay. Let me get back to the agenda here. All right. Okay. That brings to mayor's report. It just seems like so much has gone on since I reported last time. Just our general litany of meetings with GSI and Greater Spokane Valley Chamber. And we do have the growth management Spokane County elected officials meeting coming up pretty soon. So as we get closer to that process opening back up, and I know Lisa's on those meetings as well, you guys will start to hear more and more as we start through our comp plan. And I'm just warning everybody, be prepared for what's coming with that, because we are all very, very certain that the state is going to push higher densities on us, which means higher population here in Liberty Lake than we last had planned on. So that'll be a real great process, I'm sure. AWC, like Councilmember Spencer said, Councilmember Dunn, Councilmember Kurtz, myself, and City Administrator Mark McAvoy were all there. It was great to have to be able to have that many people there to spread out over many sessions. I concentrated again on a lot of the sessions that had to do with grants and getting federal funding. Had really good session with a company who has a local office here. And I believe, Lisa, they're working with you through another project that they're on. Because they mentioned, I forgot which project it is. It's, with Centennial Properties down Appleway, that firm. So, we don't have the bandwidth or the grant, real deep expertise on staff. So I think, if we want to look at choosing a partner in the future on a case-by-case basis, we do have a local resource that is available to us. And then, as usual, I also made sure I attended some refreshers with Ann McFarland on parliamentary procedure, running great council meetings. And so what I think I may do, and I always relearn things at some of those, is we had her do some trainings with the council a year or two ago now. And we do have recordings of those meetings. So I think I'll go ahead and send those back out to everybody as a refresher. And that's it for me. City Administrator report.
All right, thank you, Mayor. So if you look at your copy of your city administrator's report, we've got a couple of items to highlight on the events and reminders, and I'm going to handle items A and C together. All of those can be seen on the city's published summer calendars list. And I specifically called out the library events because there's probably a dozen of them that are occurring over July and August, starting on the 11th today and going through mid-August or late August. And so check out our calendar online and look for all of those opportunities. And they have individual reminders and information about each of these in more detail at the library and on the library's website. And then also the remaining items or events rather that will take place that the city either sponsors, co-sponsors, or just wants you to be aware of that are happening between July, August, and early September. And to point out specifically, Barefoot in the Park that's coming quickly. August 5th is the date, so within 3 weeks. And we'll be back in the park for another great event like we just experienced last Tuesday at the July 4th event. So thanks again to all of the staff that participated in putting that together. It was, again, a great event. Any questions about events and reminders before we move on?
I will just note that that there's several people who got together for an event at Barefoot that's going to raise money for the Ridgeline High School Band. And it's not a dunk tank because we can't get insured for that, but it is a water dump tank type, the bucket. And there'll be several people, including Councilmember Spencer, myself, Chief Simmons. I think Lieutenant Morgan is doing it. I think Chief Soto's doing it. Did they get you or not? Oh, I think we need to extend it a half hour so we can get on there. But anyway, there's different charges for how close you can get to the trigger for the water, including I think $20 if you just want to walk up and hit it. So it's a great fundraiser opportunity for the Ridgeline Band. So come out and support them.
All right. Kelsey is going to give you a briefing on the quarterly donations report. Kelsey.
Thank you, Mark. Mayor and council, I've printed for you a summary of donations received in the second quarter of this year. A couple items I'll touch on first. You all had the opportunity to approve specifically at council meetings, the Amana Kitchen Range and the Never Forget Veterans Garden Monument. In addition to those, we did receive donation of a memorial plaque for Kyla Chang, tomato and pepper plants that a lot of our garden plot users were able to take advantage of. A cash donation specifically towards the Pavilion Fireworks Show, and then some tasty cookies and coffee from Washington Trust Bank. So I'm happy to answer any questions, or I'll turn it back to Mark.
Looks like we're good.
All right, so Councilmember Sahlberg just mentioned this, but we want to take the opportunity, given that we've had quite a few conversations regarding the Mission Avenue repair of late. And so I'll invite Lisa Key up to the podium to give you an update on what's going on out there this week.
Thank you, Mark, Mayor and council members. So as you know, Mission Avenue is closed. Yesterday, we completed the grind. Today we were, out there paving, or Poe was out there paving. Actually by about this time, it should be completed. I was out there around 4:30 this afternoon and they were doing a great job. We were getting good compaction. We're getting, everything seems to be going very smoothly. We will be doing the pre-spotting for striping, possibly tomorrow, but probably on Thursday with inspection on Friday, striping on Monday, and we expect to have the road open by the 19th.
Great, couple days ahead. So Lisa, got a couple questions for you. So I know when the work was being done last year, we had a problem with people going around the signs and driving it. Are there more measures being taken to try to block that off better?
Yeah, so we have the traffic control has been working fairly well. We did have one incident today, but again, we have enough people out there that we were able to stop them before they drove on our new pavement.
Yeah, and I asked because we've also had reports of people driving over, taking their golf carts and bicycles over the Kramer Bridge, which is a whole nother topic, but that's just kind of, I know we had problems with people driving through Mission.
Yeah, and PD has been doing a great job of keeping an eye on the traffic control with all the wind that we had yesterday. They were able to let us know that some of the signage had blown down, and Greenstone was very good about getting right out there and addressing that. So
Great. Thank you.
Lisa,
yes.
if maybe Jen's crew or whoever's at Orchard Park early knows that they can go double check. It might surprise you to know I was out walking at 5 o'clock in the morning, and that's when they're all taken down. They're taken down drunk rush until early morning, and then later on in the day, somebody sees them, puts them back up, but there were people flying through there at 5:15 this morning.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And
No, stop.
I will,
Pushed off. to
I'll
the side.
shoot an email out to streets to have them make sure that they check it out early tomorrow morning. Thank you.
Yeah, and Lieutenant, can we have the PD swing by there on a little bit more regular basis? Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, so moving along, our last update this evening is related to the strategic plan. And I just wanted to give you a few quick stats on the community survey that we deployed, and then some information about next steps. So we went ahead and held open the survey through July 5th, just to give people a fefew extra days. And we ended up with a total of 250 plus responses. And what that indicates is that 252 people went in and started the survey. Of those 252, 498 answered all of the questions. So roughly 150 people answered a portion of the questions.
Real quick, Mark, I think you said 250 responses. You had 450?
So we had 650 total
You
responses.
said 250.
Did I?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
I was really worried about our investment there for a second.
Sorry, 650.
Got it. Thank you.
498 of them completed all of the questions. And so what we're going to do, what we've done is we've taken all of that data, we've put it through some analytics and we've categorized it. And the next step now is we've invited the City Academy graduates and the chairs of the boards and commissions to a focus group that will be conducted on Thursday evening. And we're going to go through that data, and we're going to use that opportunity with that group of people to do some further analysis, check some assumptions, and then formulate some suggestions that we'll bring back to City Council at its next workshop regarding the strategic plan, which will be on August 22nd. And so it'll be our goal, obviously, to get you that packaged data well in advance of the August 22nd date. So you've got it to look it over, but that's when we have set that meeting schedule. So those are the next steps. All in all, very good response with respect to the survey, considering it was our lead off out of the gate with our new engagement software platform. We're looking for some suggestions from them and other people that use this type of software to help boost those numbers going forward. But all things considered, I think it was a great response. So we're happy with it, and we'll see what comes out of the focus group meeting on Thursday night.
Thank you.
Quick question, Mayor.
Yes.
Mark, do we know what percentage of those are from city residents? Are we able to check on IP addresses?
So based on not IP addresses, because we did not restrict it to IP addresses inside of the city, but through some diagnostic questions, we are able to pretty confidently assert that 95% of the people either live or work in the city.
Okay. And if like my wife and I both filled it out, would it only count as one or would it count as two?
If you filled it out at separate times, even if it was from the same IP, it would count as separate responses.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right. Any questions for Mark? All right. Thanks very much. So I guess we're moving on to Spokane Valley Fire Department. Good to see you, Chief Soto.
So we gotta come up to the top floor here. Young man, can you come up here, please? So besides wearing the proper uniform, sorry, Air Force guys, but you're gonna have to take those Air Force gloves off, sir. Let me see your hands. Oh, shake my hand. Con ganas, hombre. There we go. Great job coming up here. That takes guts. I couldn't have done it. So good luck with your baseball team too. All right, beat it. All right. Let's get started. Good evening, everyone. And did you say you wanted to be a firefighter, not a police officer? You did? Oh, all right, even better. All right. My hat's off to you, the All-Star games this evening. So again, good evening, everyone. Glad to be here. I've been gone for a couple of months. I've been working and had a little bit of a operation go on. So I've had Chief Zach Bond come in and take my place. So I appreciate him stepping in. So let's get started. In June, we had 1,913 calls for service. Of those, the bulk of our calls were 82.5% were the emergency medical services calls where we had 1,579. Year to date, we're just over 11,100 calls. And with responses, last month in June, we had 2,592. And we are at just over 14,400 year to date. Of the calls, you'll see to the right, the run numbers for each of our individual pieces of apparatus. And our busiest engine was engine 1 with 327 calls. Here locally, engine 3, just over 133 calls. And so we are still quite busy. Next slide, please. Specifically for Liberty Lake, year to date, we're at 645 911 calls. Just under 80% of those are for emergency medical services. For the month of June, we had 91 calls. And 81% of those were for emergency medical services. So if you take a look to your left, the little category there is our top. It's generally your top 5 calls, but I just went ahead and went with all of them since they fit. So the bulk of our calls obviously are EMS in nature, followed by building, fire alarms, motor vehicle accidents. The CARES call, if you don't know what the Spokane County Counseling and Recovery Services is if somebody has an issue, but doesn't necessarily mean that they needed to go to the hospital or was a true, I don't want to say or downplay their emergency because everyone's emergency is different. However, if we can keep them out of the 911 system and keep the hospitals open for true emergencies and have people that are suffering from other non-emergent medical issues, then we will refer them to CARES and they'll come and see if they can patient navigate them to urgent care, things of that nature. So after that was service calls, fire calls, hazardous materials calls. Next slide, please. So this is our responses by aid. Once again, we are an auto aid fire department, meaning we have auto aid with everybody in our area. With Kootenai County Fire, it's just for fire, so it's not emergency medical services. However, we have auto aid with the city of Spokane, District 8, District 9, District 10. And so what this shows, the first graph, first circle graph on the left, is the calls that we have gone to outside of our district to cover those areas. And again, auto aid is the closest appropriate unit. So if engine 3 is out of service and there's a fire, and Kootenai County Fire is the closest appropriate unit, that's who's going to come to that call. So we're not worried about call volume, we're worried about saving lives and getting there as quickly as possible. The circle to your right, those are the calls that we took inside our area that other departments came and helped us out with being the closest appropriate unit. So overall, Valley Fire has taken 93% of their total call volume that we were able to. Next slide, please. So this graph is to show the incidents by station area, and you will see that obviously Station 7 is still pumping calls out, and will continue to. The reality is they're very busy. And they're closely followed by Station 8, Station 1, Station 10, 6, and 2. So again, we're just we're maintaining call volume right now, and hopefully we'll continue to grow to help reduce those calls on each apparatus. Next slide. So this slide is a comparison between 2022 and 2023. As you can tell, and it's based on a timeline, so through June. So we're right on some calls just ahead of last year, and other calls were behind last year. So overall, we're pretty close to last year's call volume. Next slide, please. So this is just a more specific graph of each call and how many of those calls that we've taken over the last few years. The amount of June calls we had for 2023 was our third highest June call volume in history. So again, things are still quite busy. Next slide, please. This slide here shows us in comparison to each year. As you can see, some years are busier than others. At this moment, right now through June, we are 1.57% below last year's call volume, and that window has been closing throughout the first half of the year. So I anticipate we're going to be right around where we were last year, maybe a little bit behind, maybe a little bit ahead, but again, we're still quite busy. So we're doing our best out there. That's all I have to report. I'm here for any questions that you might have.
Does anybody have any questions? All right, looks like you're.
Thank you all.
Thanks for coming.
All right.
Okay, we are on to Liberty Lake Sewer and Water District. Bill Genoway, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. So we're going through some remodeling of the district office. Demo is underway right now. So if the customers want to come to the district office to pay their bills or have questions, there's a side entrance that allows them in. And there will be a receptionist there to answer the questions, see what they've got, see what's going on. So far, I've got 169 customers that have missed the deadline for their backflow testing. We're not really too concerned about that because some of those the testers tend to block their responses up and then send them all in at once. So that's not a huge deal. We got a little bit of a project down on Liberty Lake Drive, Mel Capseed, that's a little sewer and water job. That might be a little problem for some of the citizens, but so far so good. We're doing what we do. Any questions?
No, at this point, do you know about what percentage of first passes you had on the backflow tests?
We are ahead of last year. This time last year, the ones that hadn't made the deadline was about 250 to 300. So we're doing better. And we think we're looking at about a 3 or 4% failure rate right now, which is way better than it was.
Well, it just goes to show why this is necessary. Anybody have any questions?
I had a question.
Yeah, Councilmember Spencer.
Thanks. You mentioned Melcapsey and Liberty Lake Road might be a little bit of problem for residents. What does that mean exactly?
Well, we're gonna replace the sewer and water lines in there. But we will have access through that construction site the whole time we're digging. So it shouldn't be a problem, but it'll be a bit of an inconvenience at some time.
Right. Thanks for clarifying. I
Okay.
don't see any more. Thanks for coming, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
You betcha.
Okay, I think that brings us to our workshop about baseball field space. So Jen Camp is joining us. Thanks for being here.
Thank you,
Kind of
Mayor.
run down where we are.
Council, waiting for a small PowerPoint. So the question has come up that, how can we obtain more fields? How can we produce more field space within city limits to provide for particularly our Little League group with their Challenger Series group. Steve and I met last Friday and had a good meeting. He went over this presentation with me. And so what I'm going to do is set this up and give you a rundown, and this is very brief, of what our current inventory is, who currently uses the fields, and then the feedback that I received from this group on what their desires are. So next slide, please. So currently our main fields are Field 1 and Field 2 at the Diamonds. We also manage and maintain the north field to the right and the south field to the left, bottom left. Those are owned by CV, not by the city, but we maintain and manage those. Next slide, please. Pavilion Park does have a diamond. It's called Rookie Field. The Little League group does use that extensively. It also has 7 overlapping fields that are used for mostly soccer. We have had lacrosse and rugby on that from time to time. So it's sort of a multi-field system. Next slide, please. Rocky Hill Park is very similar, much smaller. You'll see there are 3 fields, mostly utilized by soccer, a little bit of rugby, and that's the extent of it. So I guess probably what I'll do right now is elaborate a little bit on the pavilion situation and this situation. And thank you to Hudson for commenting, can we get more fields on pavilion and possibly at Rocky Hill? I have that in a further slide, but at the moment, while you're looking at it, you'll see, yeah, looking at that, we could put a field or 2 in there, we could rearrange, but what you don't see is the drop in elevation right smack north to south through the middle of that park. It's pretty extensive. And then at the very north middle of the park to the right of the big knoll is a small little grassy hill. So in order to make those things happen, either at Pavilion or at Rocky Hill, it's certainly doable. You would have to rearrange field spaces and discuss whether or not to give up soccer fields, which are heavily utilized as well. And you'd have to have some pretty extensive renovation happen with funding to support that. So not to say it couldn't happen, but it would be a discussion and a budget item to make that happen, and then time to make that happen. And next slide, please. The other option that I put on here that I did a little bit of research on, talked with Steve, and he can elaborate further. In the past, there was an agreement. When I first started back with the city in 2011, the city had some kind of an agreement with the management company or the property owner to actually utilize that field. So the city's expectation was my staff mowed and dumped the trash there, and Riverview Little League at the time used that field area. There's an actual baseball field. The diamond is in the bottom right-hand corner with a backstop. It's not in good condition, and it really wasn't back then, but they used it quite heavily. It was when Jenny Tomlinson was responsible for the league. I think she was the president. So that agreement went away several years ago. We no longer have anything to do with it. They do still mow it, but I was told by the property management that it is going to be developed into something, and Steve can elaborate. Next slide, please. So this is really tiny. I apologize, but it's basically everything I just laid out. So it just says which fields we have, which parks we have, and who utilizes them the most. The one that I haven't mentioned yet is Orchard Park and Town Square Park. So Orchard Park was not built to be conducive in any way, shape or form for recreational and sports field use. It's truly just a casual field setup. The way that they poured all the concrete and portioned out all of the grass and turf areas, and then the fact that you have the power lines going over that. I don't know, again, it would take some major renovation in order to have a field space set up and dedicated there. And then Town Square Park, I do have that on there as an option. Of course, that's a 6.4 acre area, which would be conducive to that space, but there has never been discussion on that as to what to do with that space. And I think it's slated for master plan. So there's always that opportunity to put something there. Next slide, please. So after talking, this elaborates further on what I just talked about, but after talking with Steve a little bit further, you know, the question was, could we do something at CV with the north field and the south field at the elementaries? And I said, you know, that would have to be a discussion with CV. We don't own that property. We can't make changes to that property. And as Councilmember Dunn knows, that isn't great property for baseball. The fields there are fairly uneven. They have dips in them and they have some slight grades and slopes to them. They're not really set up for again, they're play fields for kids on recess. And really that even though there is a backstop or two there, they're not conducive for tournaments. They're not conducive for full games, just t-ball in practice at best. Next slide, please. Or is that it? Oh. So the last thing that I kind of pulled and gleaned out of the conversations I've had with this particular league is their desire for more dedicated fields, a complex, an actual complex space so they could host tournaments, an area where they could have their own dedicated storage shed and sell concessions. More fields at Pavilion was another question. Again, anything's possible. I think you all know how heavily utilized that park is for other things. So that would, you know, be a factor in that decision. Upgrading the school fields, discussion with CV would have to happen. And then school fields, I'm skipping the CV green box. School fields as an option in Selkirk fields. I think right now they told me they do utilize Selkirk's fields from time to time, but that has its own challenges as well. Now, I think there was a misconception out there in the league that why does CV always has priority? CV is always using the fields or using it more, and we have to come in and fill in the gaps around CV. Well, we actually do have a 20-year use agreement with Central Valley School District, so they have priority use over both of our Diamonds fields and the tennis courts at Orchard Park. So we have to abide by that. So yes, they do get priority over the other leagues, over SIYB. And then SIYB and the Little League groups do come in and fill in the gaps. So that's a 20-year agreement. I think we're in year 3 or 4. So with that, I'm going to introduce you to Steve, who's going to come up and chat with you. And I'll be here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jennifer, Mayor and council members. My name is Steve Rabb. I am the current president of Liberty Lake Spokane Valley Little League, and that position will be open next year if any of you are interested. Having to deal with stuff like this. You know, one of the things that I really wanted to highlight first is that, you know, Little League's more than just baseball. It really is about community. I didn't know Hudson was going to come up here and do that today. But I was super impressed with him. And that's really what our league is about. Like, we are about developing character and courage and loyalty, getting better at baseball, but also being prepared to be good citizens. And that's really what Little League espouses. And so we're growing these young children. I mean, we have boys and girls in the league. There's a lot of girls that are playing Little League now as well, to really be able to do what Hudson did. He must have had a really good baseball coach this season. So anyways, just to set the stage too, I want to say thank you so much to Liberty Lake, to Jennifer and to her team, to Trevor and all the work that they do on the fields. the fields are really great, and we couldn't do this without all the work that they put into it. We're super grateful. So as we come in here and talk about field space, I don't want you to think that we're taking for granted what the city already does for us, because we certainly don't. But we have some challenges. So next slide, please. A little bit about our demographics. We had 500 players this last spring. That's a big group of players. Ages 4 to 14. I actually take that back. Ages 3 to 14. League age 4, but hadn't turned 4 yet. 40% of those, or 200, and it depends on the league, reside in Liberty Lake. Okay, 60%, or about 300 of those players, are outside of Liberty Lake, but part of the CV school district. We have a few players from East Valley, a few from West Valley, but mostly from the CV school district. This year, what's really cool is it was our inaugural year for our Challengers division. That was led by Kyle right back here, who's our information and safety officer. And we provided a special needs league. And it was amazing, not just for those kids, but you see in this picture, that's one of our older players who goes and be a buddy for one of the younger players. They get as much or more out of it than the special needs players do. They want to go back after they've done it the first time, because it's such a special experience for them. And that's part of the developing character for them. We had a 15% increase from last year. We've had a 50% increase since 2018. So the league is growing as more and more people find out about it. More and more people are joining. We also have another baseball league, Spokane Indians, in Spokane. They mostly play all over the city. And so as more and more people in Liberty Lake find out about us, they're like, where have you been? We're like, we're here. And that's why we changed our name 2 years ago it was Riverview Little League. And we said, no, that's not who we are. We're Liberty Lake, Spokane Valley. It's a mouthful, but we felt like we needed to do it to identify with where we are. And Liberty Lake's first, because honestly, these are our home fields, and this is where we call home. Next slide, please. So our number one challenge is fields. And I'd say this is the number one challenge across all of the city, is finding decent fields to play on. In a week, we play at least 42 games. That's 336. That's without playoffs and all-stars. About 50% of those are played in Liberty Lake at the fields that Jennifer mentioned. So Pavilion, Diamonds, Liberty Creek, and Liberty Lake too. The rest are played at local middle and elementary schools. And the challenge with that is baseball season's going for the middle schools. So we have to work around that, change our timing. There's often scheduling conflicts. And then there's safety concerns, because quite honestly, the school doesn't do as good a job as Trevor and his crew do at keeping the fields up. So, and then we also have limited practice locations within Liberty Lake. So that's kind of the challenge and why we're here today, to find out, are there options where we can partner to provide more opportunities for keeping families and kids in Liberty Lake? Next slide, please. So that's our ask. Is there space for building a new field? Can we partner with CV to improve and maintain fields at Liberty Lake Elementary and Liberty Creek Elementary? Can we partner with the school to put in more backstops at Liberty Creek in that big section that they put one in? Can we partner with the landowner at the corner of Appleway and Liberty Lake? That was a Safeco field. Unfortunately, I talked to the person who thinks they're going to be the future owner of that property, and it really is slated for development. So unfortunately, he let me know that that probably wasn't an option, and I know him well, and so I asked him if could we like build a field on top of the hotel that he's planning. He thought that'd be too expensive, so we're out there. So we're really looking for an opportunity to partner. We don't expect the city to pick up everything. There are multiple opportunities for us to partner with grants through Little League. We have people willing to put forth money to build a special needs field with turf, at least on the infield, right? When we announced that, we had all kinds of people come forward willing to donate money for things like that. So we certainly are going to have skin in the game. We're looking for partnership, not just the city to say, yeah, we'll do this, right? We are not for profit. We have the lowest fees in the entire area. So it's not like we have a lot of money, but we can certainly generate probably through donations, et cetera. Next slide, please. I think this is important. You know, what's in it for Liberty Lake? Because as Jennifer talked about, if you put another diamond somewhere, it could take up other fields. So I realized that that would take away from Liberty Lake kids practicing here, which we don't get a lot of anyways, right? Because the fields, if we do have, the fields are usually used for games, so not a lot of kiddos can practice here. But here's what's in it for Liberty Lake. Every night there'd be 100+ families from outside of Liberty Lake would now be filling up with gas, getting pizza after games. I can't tell you how many times I did that, right? At one of the 3 pizza places in town, grabbing food to go, or eating at a restaurant, grocery shopping, and frequenting other businesses. So there is something in it for Liberty Lake. That's 100 families a night, right? So you think over a baseball season, what does that look like? It also would give us, if we had the proper facilities, right now, the only field we could use for a tournament, because Little League has a ton of rules, so it's onerous, to be honest, but the only field we could use for a tournament right now would be Diamonds 1, because Diamonds 2 is a bigger field and it doesn't have a regulation fence that would work. So it would, you know, if we could move this forward, we had the option to run more tournaments on weekends that would do the above, but also bring in more nights to the local hotels. And last but not least, building a stronger community as more city members and businesses get involved in Little League. Next slide. I want to thank you for the time. I'm open to any questions. This is just a picture of our U12 District 13 champions that are going to be going on to state and representing Liberty Lake over in Seattle area starting Saturday. Questions?
All right, who wants to start? Anybody? Councilmember Cargill.
Thanks, Mayor. Steve, can you talk about the league schedule when you guys play?
So we play most of the time Monday through Friday. Why? Because we realize that kids still play soccer, unfortunately. No, just kidding. We encourage kids, our kiddos, to play multiple sports if they want to. And so we, particularly for the younger kids, we never play on Saturdays. The older kids, sometimes we're forced to, especially middle school age, because they're also playing school ball. So the only option they have is to play Saturdays. But for the most part, it's Monday through Friday nights.
And that's in the spring and fall.
Spring and fall. So we go from April 20th, essentially, through about June 21st. All-star season starts then. We're using the fields for practices. We generally have 3 to 4 all-star teams. And then we start a fall season after that.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Dunn.
Are there any feature or geometry changes to Diamonds 1 and 2 or Rookie Field that would improve things?
If honestly, the fields are in really great shape. The one thing that we would need at both Diamonds 2 and Rookie is some type of fencing available, right? That we could put in and then make those, and we probably have to flatten out the mound at Rookie and put a movable mound like we have at the other fields, which is probably minimal work to do both those things. But there are some costs involved with the fencing, some type of semi-permanent fencing that could be put around in the outfield would be required.
That would really solve the bigger problem.
Yeah.
That would solve for maybe allow little.
Some tournaments.
Be there, but it doesn't help us in any way in terms of.
Yeah. For most of the season, we don't have access to field 2 at Diamonds because the middle school is using it, you know, which I've talked to Trevor and Jennifer. We understand there's a use agreement. It is what it is. Chase Rasmussen over at Selkirk's really great. We work together to say, hey, when you're not using it, we're going to jump on and use it as soon as you're done. And they've been awesome to work with. It's just, yeah, we just don't have quite enough. Ideally, if we could partner with CV School District, us, you, and them to improve those fields, they're just not safe for kids. There are so many holes and bumps, and just practicing on there, like kids are taking balls to the face. And so we made a decision this year, we couldn't use field 1 at all. We could use field 2. It's still not the best, but we moved we move home plate out a little bit and to kind of make do.
From a challenger's perspective,
can you come to the mic? Because the people online probably can't hear you.
From a challenger's perspective, if we got the field turf on whether it's 1, 2, or rookie, that would help from the challenger's perspective, because we do have kids in wheelchairs and slogging them through dirt is not easy. We find the tallest typical kids, the biggest typical kids, and say, good luck. You're gonna be pushing this wheelchair through a bunch of dirt, and so having some field turf would be helpful, at a minimum.
All right, well, I do know that at one point the hub obviously was looking at maybe adding that, but their plans have obviously changed. For me, it'd be interesting to see what dig up those old plans and see what kind of space would be required. That's really, if you're going to do a complex, right? Well, what kind of space are you looking for? Because, I'm thinking, obviously the only empty space that the city currently owns is the 4 acres that's left around town square. Probably not the best place for something like that amid all the traffic and whatnot, but there are still quite a few undeveloped properties around, and not thinking of what zone for what right now, so so don't panic, Lisa. But there's the whole piece of property that Huntwood owns between Mission and Appleway. I know there's probably some challenges there, but then there's a whole bunch of other space north and south of the freeway that if some of the developers who own that land, or even Huntwood, or could get into this conversation, who knows what they might be willing to maybe donate. Councilmember Cargill. Oh, sorry.
I'm wondering, Jen, if you could comment on, I know you kind of did already, but and maybe this isn't an answer that you'll have tonight, about the possibility of doing something on the northwest corner of Pavilion, and whether that would, if the field was facing southwest, if that would limit the soccer.
We
teams that are there.
yeah, we would have to do some research into that.
Okay.
I don't have a response at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, it would take some reworking of the field space in particular, adding backstops.
Yeah.
Figuring out the sizing, everything,
Okay.
designing.
And then I guess my other question, per what the mayor was talking about, we talked with Greenstone when they came in about developing the Meadowood technology property. And we've got that huge parking lot sitting there on the corner of Moulter and Mission. And I know they were planning to do some buildings in that area and restaurants and other things like that. But I'm wondering, just thinking out loud, if that might be an option too, if we were able to bring Greenstone into this.
And Greenstone does have on the north side over by, was that park called River Rock? River Rock. I mean, there's lots of space out there too, that hardly ever gets used. I used it for play football a couple times, and there's some soccer going on over there, but there's some green space out there that's hardly ever used.
Don't the power lines go over that too, though?
Not
They don't?
the area that he's talking about.
Okay.
Power lines are to the west of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I think Mayor Pro Tem had a question.
Yeah, as you've been talking, I've been looking at the scout map to see what kind of properties there are within the city. Give me an idea of what kind of acreage you'd be looking for.
So regulation field for us needs to be basically 210 feet. So you have a diamond that goes out 210 feet to each side with a fence around it. Plus you're going to need probably 50 feet behind the dugout for fans and down the lines. So essentially we would need, I would say like I think it's about a 500 feet by 500 feet for a regulation Little League field, which would be for 12U.
To an acre,
Yeah,
just shy. For one.
For one.
for one.
Right. Would it have to be within the city limits for the city to support it?
Well, I think it would,
And the reason I asked that question is Central Valley bought a lot of acreage out on Henry back in 2016. it's not in our city limits.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that, but
Yeah.
trying to think really outside the box here.
I don't think that Mark or Lisa jump in, but I think if it's outside the city limits, we can't. We can't use our taxpayer dollars for that. Is that correct? Unless there's some sort of MOU put together.
So we would have to do some research to get the specific details on what would be allowable and not. I would, if by support you mean monetarily support, let us get a better answer.
Yeah,
Council
I
could
don't
certainly
expect an answer
support.
tonight, but
Yeah.
I'm just,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, for
We'll
example, when we
look in
did,
and get you a
when we
better
did the
answer.
diamonds, the city got the 20 acres for $10, because we couldn't improve that property without owning it. And then the school district took back half of it and we kept the baseball fields. So there are some creative
Sure.
things, but. we
And,
can take a
and my
look.
last comment is the gun club location is a very large acreage area within the city. That's probably gonna be our best bet, I'm guessing, is to go make a deal with the school.
So that's also owned by CB.
Central Valley, yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I don't see any other questions unless.
Just a quick comment. I'm just wondering if in a future meeting, when we bring this back, if we could find out, first of all, it might take a little side work with CV, but first of all, about the gun club property, I like that idea. But also what it would take and just like kind of a ballpark cost of adding something or field turf at least to rookie field. So that at least the special needs kids could have a spot.
All right. We've got some notes to take and some things to follow up on.
And the other thing, I guess, would be just if, as we partner and put together a field, would the city be able to help with the maintenance on it? We'll take Trevor's team any day because they do such a great job and, it'd be great to have their help on it, if we do have something.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I guess one other question, is there any opportunity for federal, state grants support?
There is, in fact, we're gonna have a session here coming up with the district on writing grants. So the hard part is you gotta have the property. You gotta have somewhere to put it, but yes, there's money out there to be had. And that's why I say we want to partner. We're not expecting the city to just put up all the money.
And are you having these same conversations with City of Spokane Valley?
Quite honestly, no, because Liberty Lake's our home. Like we don't have parents complain from Spokane Valley that they have to drive to Liberty Lake. We have parents complaining from Liberty Lake that they have to drive to Spokane Valley. And really this is where we consider our home base. So.
No, I get it, but if you're looking for partners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, the funding and the donations isn't the problem at all. It's the space.
Yep.
You can get lights donated fairly easily for Little League baseball. You can get batting cages from Gonzaga University fairly easily. You can get, we have people asking to pay for field turf for special needs. I mean, there's money there. But in one day, we had a decent sized amount of people wanting to donate for the challenge division. Because money's there, the space isn't. It's really a big problem.
I feel your pain. My son's almost 21, but I remember when he was 4, starting soccer and baseball and thinking, why do I need to keep spending all my money outside of Liberty Lake? What can we do to make people come here? And so, it's a process. It's been, I'm sure it's been frustrating for a lot of people for a long time, especially when he started playing G-men football. That was all, we were going all the way down by U High for practices. And so we were spending our dinner money and running errands in the valley. So I totally understand the economic impact this could have.
What, you guys discussed this and I apologize, but one other option is out by Lotus Orchards, those fields, are they in Liberty Lakes?
I don't think so.
What
East
road?
Farms area.
No, that's county.
Yeah.
Just throwing something out. I have no idea what the answer is, but can a boundary connection be made by county conservation land?
Potentially, but again, we'll have to do some research and.
I mean, we could have an island. We have a freeway that runs through our city. What's wrong with a Anyways,
Well, at least we know it has a term.
thanks.
All right.
Lisa.
Well, thanks, gentlemen. Really appreciate it. And
Thank you very much.
We'll do some digging and we'll get this, continue the conversation.
Great. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks, guys.
And thanks you guys in the back for coming. I hope everything went well tonight. Did you guys have practice? Yep. Awesome. Okay, moving on. We are on to general business consent agenda. Mayor Pro Tem.
Make a motion to approve general business consent agenda items 10A and B.
Second.
We have a second from Councilmember Cargill. Since we are consent agenda, no discussion. Do we have all in favor of approving the consent agenda with items A and B, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, ayes have it.
General business item 11A, make a motion to approve the amendment to parametrics task order number 2023-05 for on-call construction support services for a total amount not to exceed $25,000.
Second.
And we have a second by Councilmember Spencer. Are there any questions or concerns? I know Lisa's here to answer any questions that you might have. Nope. Okay. No comments. All in favor of approving general business item A, parametrics task order 2023-05, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, ayes have it, 5-0. Next.
General business item 11B, make a motion to approve the amendment to the parametrics task order number 2022-01 for on-call plan review services for a total amount not to exceed $45,000.
We have a second.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Sahlberg. Any questions or discussion on item B? Boy, man, I read this wrong. I'm the one who asked Kelsey to move them to separate items because I figured there would be some discussion. So great. All in favor of approving general business action item B, parametrics task order 2022-01, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 5-0.
Thank you for a well-written summary.
That will do it. All right, we're up to council comments, not to include future agenda items. We have any council comments at this time? Not seeing any. We will move on through the agenda. We don't have any public hearings or appeals. We have no resolutions, which brings us to ordinances. First read on 291A. Kelsey.
Ordinance number 291A, an ordinance amending ordinance number 291 passed by the City Council on December 6, 2022, entitled an ordinance of the City of Liberty Lake, Washington, adopting a budget for the period January 1, 2023 through December 31st, 2023, appropriating funds and establishing salary schedules for established positions.
All right, so and noted earlier in the meeting when this comes for second read, I'm assuming at our next meeting next week, we will we'll have it read and then we will go through the different buckets one at a time. All right.
Question.
Yes, go ahead.
I guess my question is, I know it's a first read, but is it, does it not warrant a little bit of discussion on items 1, 2, and 3
Sure, if
at
you'd
this
like.
time?
Kyle's coming up to answer your questions.
Yeah, certainly here to field or answer any questions that council may have on the first read.
Go ahead.
I guess I'm going to question item number 2, given that we really don't have any further direction on where that's all going. So why are we adjusting the budget before the action item?
This is providing for the eventual, and so we can certainly wait on this if that's the direction that we ultimately do not want to proceed with these repairs. This was just a proactive measure to allocate. That does not mean we have to then commit funds to it. It's just providing the space to do it in the event council decides.
At this point of the game, that I know we don't probably need to make a formal motion, but when it comes time for a second read, I'm going to be in favor of removing that line altogether.
Sure.
Yeah, Councilmember Dunn.
Yeah, I also want to speak in favor of items 1 and 3 from within the amendment. And I'm ready to, proceed if, immediately, I guess, but Item two, I also have concerns over and I cannot immediately approve as it's stated in 291A.
Absolutely. Any appropriate direction, I can kind of prepare this in anticipation for next week as well, if council so chooses.
Okay, Councilmember Cargill.
Thank you. I was, that's part of the reason I asked the question as well, because I was concerned about number two. I guess my follow-up question on number three is, and refresh my memory, because maybe we've seen this and I can't recall. Did we come up with the $75 from somewhere to rent the room? Is that what we originally were calling for?
So this was lifted from our catering addendum with our prospective restaurateur that was going to take on this for us. We are in this gap where they are figuring out their system for getting improvements in there. We still need to account for reservations in that area where we are open, but they have not moved in yet.
Right, which is fine. I was just thinking that 75 seems pretty cheap to rent that room. Maybe it's just me. Especially when we charge, some of the Skyhawks camps to obviously use the facilities out in the fields, anywhere from, 150 to 229. So I know it's not necessarily apples to apples, but I would think that we could charge more to rent that room than just the $75.
I think that's valid too. Some of the rationale that was lifted from that was that when we were developing the discussion for what this space wants to be, it was truly going to be a community
Yeah.
space. And so we didn't want to be punitive certainly in any
Sure.
manner,
Yeah.
but
Cost.
setting a
recovery.
fair rate is certainly open for discussion.
But to clarify, that number is in alignment with the catering addendum that is not in place, but
Right.
that was the prevailing thought moving forward.
Correct.
Okay, any other, go ahead, Councilmember Spencer.
Yeah, thank you. On item two, I guess my question is timeline. So we're out to bid right now for that project. Is that right? The parametrics they have not, but I thought in our last discussion, they had said that it was going out to bid like that Monday or something like that.
That has been delayed a little bit. We need to address some construction easements. And so that will be delayed a little bit. We will have that. We will be coming back with a proposal for that a little bit later in the month, but quite frankly, we were trying to get through some of the other repair work first.
So I guess to follow up with that, obviously we need 2 reads to, if we are going to move forward with this, I'm not saying I would be in favor of that or not, but we do need the time. And then what is our expected, if the city's going to take on this project, what is our timeline? Because obviously we need to have it done before school starts again.
So actually, that's probably not true because the repair for the eastern side, the closure for the eastern side, it's a much cleaner, easier detour route.
Gotcha.
So that's not necessarily true. We could get in there in and out relatively quickly because of the smaller area. So that's that is not the driver on that side of the roundabout. Having said that, we anticipate that we will be going out to bid for this probably by the end of the month or the beginning of August, and we're looking at award by the end of August or the first meeting in September. That's right now the timeline, assuming that we can address the construction easements that we need.
Okay, thank you.
So procedurally, at least from my standpoint, if we leave that second one in, and then when we get to next week, pull it out. Or do you want to go ahead and strike it now? What's the easiest thing to do, Sean? Because it sounds like from what I'm hearing, without taking a vote, that the second piece of that is going to be pulled out. These are just go ahead and take the vote on pulling that out tonight or do it next.
Yeah, but either one's fine. I mean, it doesn't matter if you want to make a motion to remove that particular item from it. You can certainly do that now.
We're
Or you
missing
can,
a couple of council members too.
or you could wait till the next meeting. So
Yeah, we
either
are
one's
missing
fine.
two people. All right, not hearing any, we'll go ahead and leave it in and then that discussion and vote can happen next week.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right, if there's no further questions for Kyle on number 295, we'll move on.
Need public comments or?
Hold on. Okay, why don't we go ahead, because I want the full council here. Can we just take a 5-minute break?
Attendees.
Yep, we'll be right back, guys. Thank you.
Sorry. I think so.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for accommodating us during our break. We are on to ordinance 295 for second read.
Ordinance number 295, an ordinance of the city of Liberty Lake, Washington, granting the right of franchise to Ziply Fiber Pacific LLC, Wholesale Networks LLC, Ziply Wireless LLC, wholly owned subsidiaries of Northwest Fiber LLC for the operation of a telecommunications system in the city of Liberty Lake.
All right,
Move to approve the second read ordinance number 295.
we have a
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, Councilmembers Solberg and Dunn. Are there any questions or discussion on this? Sorry, thank you. I was looking for the word, the franchise agreement. Now, just a note, I don't know how many of you know, Patera, our local provider here from Liberty Lake was purchased by Ziply Fiber. So a lot of this is, if not all of it is already there. Anybody have any questions? Not hearing any, we'll go ahead and see if there's any public comment. We do this on our second read. So if there's anybody who would like to comment on this ordinance before we go to vote, if you're online, go ahead and send a note to Todd Henderson in our chat. He will get my attention. If there's anybody here in chambers who'd like to make a comment on the second read ordinance, please just raise your hand. Not seeing any. Todd, anybody online? Nope. Okay, not hearing any. We'll go ahead and take a vote. All in favor of passing ordinance 295, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, not hearing any. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. All right, we are moving on. No emergency ordinances. Introduction of upcoming agenda items. Find my list here. All right, Kelsey has put an updated list on our desks. We've covered July 11th, so we do have on the 18th agenda, another insurance provider presentation, tentatively the Regional Authority for Homelessness agreement, and then some other tentatives on there. We'll of course continue to have some discussions on the question on any additional baseball fields. Is there anything else that you guys would like to have seen on the future agenda? Councilmember Dunn.
I'd like to consider joining the city of Spokane and urging the Spokane County to remove the public safety action from the November ballot. There's a mutual letter being prepared for consideration, so have that available for the 18th.
Okay. So if can you take just another moment because I think that's probably new information to some council members, just elaborate a little bit. And then I know we're going to talk to Sean a little bit and we'll put it on the agenda.
So the city of Spokane is actually going to be moving their own public safety measure, recognizing a dramatic shortfall in their own public safety expenses. Amongst other challenges, we just are recognizing that the currently scheduled public safety measure for the November ballot is not in good timing. One of my primary concerns is actually the nature of how spend operates within the window of time defined. There just isn't really a good defined plan for this. The intended suggestion is to defer this ballot measure to the following general election year to give time for a better plan to be formed for the purpose. So in an effort, it's trying to introduce more than just the city of Spokane is interested in deferring this ballot measure to the next general election.
So the question that we would be discussing is whether we want to support that ask.
To join in potentially an open letter to county commissioners urging this issue.
Great. All right, we'll get a copy of that to our city attorney and we'll have the discussion next week. All right, any other upcoming agenda items? Councilmember Spencer?
Yeah, I think several of us received an email from Robin Johnsick requesting that we have a discussion regarding the farmer's market. We had a discussion as a council regarding the candidates for office here in our city. It looks like she has some concern about maybe making that policy across the board for candidates for CVSD, school board, et cetera.
I believe the market weighed in on that. And so the market is pretty much supporting what you guys put in place.
Across the board.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So can I
Yes,
can
go
I
ahead.
just chime in there? So my understanding is that the reason why this came up is because the current CV council members who are running, or excuse me, CV board members who are running for reelection are there.
I've not seen them.
Oh,
They've
they
not been
haven't.
at our booth.
Okay.
Out in our booth.
Okay.
I
All right,
know,
thank you.
I believe they contacted the market about maybe possibly having their own.
Okay.
And it went back and forth a couple times, but and I had the conversation as well with the market manager and one of the board members, and they were standing firm with really the decision that the city council made.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further citizen comments? We are up to number 18 on our agenda. So if there's anybody here in chambers, once again, if you'd like to make a follow-up comment or a new one, just fill out a half sheet, with yellow paper over there, or if there's anyone online, just let Todd know in the chat. And give you all a second. You know, it's a hard decision. All right, not seeing anybody. We are actually going to adjourn to executive session per RCW 42.30.110.1G regarding personnel matters. Be about what, 15 minutes? I don't see going any longer than that.
That's probably fair, yeah.
Okay, there will be no decisions made, and when we come back, we will adjourn. So to give us time to get in there, so we will go ahead and adjourn to executive session. We'll go into the room next door and come back at, let's say, 8:45, because that gives us time to get in there. Thanks, everybody. All right, everybody, welcome back. And I'm amazed that we still had a couple people sitting here in City Hall and still a couple online. So thanks for sticking it out. As promised, there were no decisions made and we are adjourned. See you next week. Please, hang up. There we go.